She stood at the edge of the platform, her hands trembling slightly as the wind brushed past her face. The crowd around the bungee jump spot was buzzing with excitement, but not all of it was kind. A few whispers turned into chuckles, mocking her simple clothes and nervous expression. She wasn't dressed like the others who had come for the thrill. No expensive sportswear, no flashy cameras, just a plain jacket and an old pair of sneakers. To them, she didn't look like someone who belonged there. But what they didn't know was that appearances can be deceiving, as she prepared to take the leap. A group of onlookers laughed louder, making her hesitation seem like fear, yet her eyes told a different story. There was a quiet strength in them, a hint that she carried something much deeper than anyone could imagine. The bungee instructor noticed it too, pausing for a moment as if sensing there was more to this. Woman then met the eye. Who was she really? Why did she come here alone, ready to jump when she could have easily walked away? The crowd had no idea that the moment she jumped, their laughter would turn to silence. Something about her past, something hidden and powerful, was about to reveal itself in a way none of them could expect. The air grew still as she stepped forward, gripping the rope. Her heart raced not from fear, but from the weight of the secret. She carried all of it. In a few seconds, when she took that leap, everything would change. What happened next left everyone staring in disbelief, unable to comprehend the truth about the woman they had just mocked. The moment she stepped back from the edge to catch her breath, memories flooded her mind, memories she had tried to keep hidden from the world. Years of quiet struggle had shaped her into someone far stronger than anyone around that platform could imagine. To the crowd, she was just a simple woman, someone who looked like she didn't belong in such an adventurous place. But in reality, every step that brought her here was part of a promise she had made long ago, one that still burned in her heart. She glanced at the bungee cord again, her hands tightening around the straps. A young couple nearby whispered and laughed, their comments sharp enough for her to hear. "She looks terrified," one of them muttered, but the woman didn't flinch. Instead, she closed her eyes for a second, as if gathering strength from somewhere deep within. There was something about the way she stood, something that made the instructor's smile fade into curiosity. It was as if he sensed this jump meant more to her than just an adrenaline rush. Her life had been full of moments where people underestimated her. She had worked silently, endured storms without showing her pain, and carried a secret that would change the way anyone looked at her if they knew coming here was not just about bungee jumping. It was about proving something to herself, about breaking the invisible chains that had kept her bound for years. The crowd had no idea what was about to unfold. Every heartbeat, every deep breath she took seemed to echo with unspoken words. And as she stepped forward again with the wind tugging at her jacket, the feeling grew stronger. Something was about to happen that no one was prepared for. The crowd's laughter slowly faded into murmurs as the woman prepared once again to jump. But deep inside, her real battle was not with the height or the bungee rope, it was with her past. Every time she closed her eyes, she could still see the faces of people who had once doubted her, who had told her she would never be strong enough to face challenges. That pain had followed her like a shadow, and this moment was about more than proving them wrong. It was about proving to herself that she had the courage to let go of everything that had held her back. A man in the crowd, older and quiet, noticed the determination in her eyes. Unlike the others, he didn't laugh. There was something familiar in her posture, something that reminded him of the way people carry themselves when they've been through fire but refuse to break. He watched her carefully, as if he knew there was a bigger story unfolding on that platform. Meanwhile, the bungee instructor tried to keep the atmosphere light, joking with the crowd. But even he couldn't shake the feeling that this woman's jump carried a deeper weight. She wasn't just a thrill-seeker here for fun. Her silence and focus made the air feel heavy, like the calm before a storm. The woman's thoughts raced back to a promise she had made to someone she lost long ago. Someone who always believed in her strength, even when she didn't. This jump was for them, for the voice that still echoed in her heart, telling her not to give up. As she tightened the harness around her waist, her face remained calm, but her heart pounded like a drum. Something was about to happen, something that would turn the whispers of the crowd into stunned silence. The wind howled around the platform, carrying with it the sound of rushing water far below. The woman stood still, her fingers brushing against the cold metal railing. Every eye in the crowd was on her now. The mocking laughter had gone completely silent. Something about her calmness, about the way she stared down at the drop, made everyone hold their breath. It was as if they all sensed that this moment was different, something powerful was about to happen. Her heart pounded. Not from fear of the fall, but from the memories pressing in like a wave. She could almost hear the voice of the one person who had once told her she was capable of anything. That voice had given her strength in her darkest days, and now it echoed in her mind louder than ever. She felt tears sting her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. This wasn't a moment of weakness, this was her turning point. The instructor called out, asking if she was ready, but she barely heard him. Her focus was elsewhere. Behind her, the older man in the crowd took a step forward, watching her with an intensity that made others curious. He seemed to recognize the weight of this moment, as though he had seen such determination before. The whispers began again, not of mockery this time, but of confusion. Who was she? Why did it feel like this jump meant more than just a thrill? She took one deep breath, stepping closer to the edge. Her knees bent slightly, as if she was ready to leap, but she didn't move. The tension was electric. Everyone waited, the silence stretching thin. And then, just as the wind gusted hard, she lifted her head, and something in her expression made every person freeze. The moment her eyes lifted, the crowd saw something they couldn't explain. Mix of unshaken strength and a quiet defiance that made even the loudest onlookers fall silent. But before she could leap, the instructor suddenly paused. There was a problem with the harness. He frowned, double-checking the ropes, his voice low but tense as he whispered something to his assistant. The crowd shifted uneasily, sensing that something was wrong. For a moment, all attention turned to the equipment, but the woman didn't flinch. Her focus remained razor-sharp, as if she had expected this challenge all along. The older man in the crowd stepped forward, his face pale with recognition. He called out her name, a name no one else there knew, and the sound of it cut through the murmurs like a blade. Heads turned toward him, confused, wondering how he knew her. She froze for a brief second, her grip tightening around the rope. Whatever she had been trying to keep hidden was now dangerously close to being exposed. Whispers spread like fire. Who was this woman, and what secret was she carrying that made a stranger in the crowd look at her as if he had just seen a ghost? The tension climbed higher, the mystery deepening. She looked back at the man, and for a heartbeat, something unspoken passed between them, something heavy with history. The instructor, unaware of the unfolding drama, called out that the jump was ready again. But now, with the man's sudden appearance and his knowing gaze, the stakes had shifted. It wasn't just about proving her strength anymore. It felt as if her entire past, everything she had been trying to run from, had caught up with her in this single moment. The woman stood at the edge once more, the crowd holding its breath as the older man called out again, his voice shaking with emotion. "You don't have to do this," he said, his words carrying an urgency that made everyone pause. She turned her head slightly, and for the first time, a faint smile appeared on her face. "I do," she whispered, her voice steady but filled with a depth of meaning only he seemed to understand. It was as if this jump was not just an act of courage, but a final promise she had to keep. The instructor counted down, and with every number, the tension rose. The crowd leaned in, their hearts pounding almost as fast as hers. When he reached one, she closed her eyes and stepped off the platform. The world seemed to slow as she dropped, the wind rushing past her like a roar of freedom. Gasps filled the air, but unlike the fear everyone expected, her face was calm, almost serene, as if she was letting go of years of pain in that single fall. When the cord pulled her back up, she opened her eyes and looked straight at the older man in the crowd. Their eyes locked, and suddenly it all made sense. He wasn't just a stranger. He was someone from her past, someone who knew the secret she had been carrying. As she dangled in midair, he raised a small medal in his hand, the same medal she had once lost years ago, a symbol of a victory she never spoke of. The crowd gasped, realizing she wasn't just an ordinary woman. She had faced battles they could never imagine and had won. But the real twist was in her calm words as she was lowered back down. This was never about fear. It was about remembering who I am. As her feet touched the ground, the crowd erupted into applause. Noelle,